And that was my biggest limit that I've
Wow.
ever seen, and it was for $20,000. So
$20,000. Hold on,
I
hold on.
was like,
Let's
wow.
let's take a step back. And Rachel, how much money do you think you were able to save from the original balance to what they told you would owe based on the strategy that we gave you?
What I was able to save, long story short, was $10,000. That was the sparking point, I would say, that I
Yeah.
decided, you know what, I need to do something about it. But it wasn't until
Now, some of you all may be watching this and you're probably thinking to yourself, you know what? I am in a similar situation where I'm not sure if I can afford to keep this car, if it makes sense for me to do a voluntary repossession. And a lot of people don't know this, but hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here. Listen, I'm super excited to bring you all our brand new show, The Credit Blueprint. Okay. In this show, we're going to be interviewing people just like you that have credit goals. But here's the difference: they put their credit goals to action. Okay. And not only did they put their credit goals to action, but they got a custom game plan to walk them through the entire process. But either way, I don't want to take up too much of their time. I want you all to see yourself. I want you all to see your goals within this person, okay? And you're going to see that they're just like you, but again, they put action behind their goals and now they're starting to accomplish them, okay? So without any further ado, I want to bring you all to our first guest, Miss Rachel. Rachel, can you hear us okay?
yes, I can hear you well. Hello, hello.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much, Rachel, for taking out your time and just honestly putting everything in place to be here today. So we greatly appreciate you for doing that and also sharing your story with us as well.
No problem. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now here's the thing. There's a lot of people, okay, that talk
Mhm.
about improving credit scores and doing certain things or whatever. What made you start the process or essentially just say to yourself, you know what? I want to start improving my credit. There's some things I want to accomplish. To give us a little bit of that. Like what made you even make the decision to start looking to improve your credit score?
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest things I could say is competition. All right.
Okay.
My fiance and I, we got a house.
Yeah.
I would say it started before then
Okay.
because I was working with you, of course, Calvin, a couple of years back, and
Yeah.
I was getting denied just for being able to rent a
Yeah.
home. And
Okay.
I just really felt bad that my credit, when I moved, of course, from one state to
Mm,
the next and things hit me, it really set me back. And I didn't want to be in that place anymore where I couldn't even rent, let
yeah.
alone own. So that's where the journey really started for me when it came to improving my credit.
Yeah. Okay. So and listen, I know a lot of people watching this right now are thinking the same thing. They are, either wanting to move or something big just happened in their life and they're like, "Okay, you know what? It's time to get serious about this." Let's go further back. Let's start from the beginning. So now, what was your relationship with credit like before you got serious about fixing it?
Oh, my only relationship with credit was don't use credit cards.
Mm.
That was the relationship. I went through a program, not gonna say the name, but went through a
Yeah.
program with a church. It was over 10 years ago. And
Yeah.
I remember the great parts about the program, and it was more
Mhm.
of cut those credit cards up. So
Right. Don't
I
even
didn't
use
have
them.
any right, and I didn't have credit cards back then. So I
Yeah.
in my mind that meant don't go get a credit card.
If you're looking to increase your credit score, qualify for homeownership, or lower your monthly car payment, we can help you. We can take a look at your credit report and create a custom game plan for you to help you accomplish your credit goals. Scan this QR code or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Right.
So at
Right.
that point, that was my only relationship with it when it came to
Yeah.
credit. I was surrounded by others such as yourself and others who
Yeah.
knew about credit, but I was never educated on the credit game. And that was something that I was like, you know what, I have to figure this credit game out or I'm gonna be
Yeah.
leveraged by the creditors. So
That's right. Listen, okay, you sound like you know it, learning some stuff here, okay? But no, that's serious. It most definitely is. Now let's talk about this. Was there ever a moment where you realized it was time to make a change? Like what triggered that?
I would say yes, there were many moments, but the
Yeah.
biggest moment for me was going into home ownership. I
Mhm.
knew my credit could be better,
Yeah.
because when my fiance and I applied for the home, we both
Yeah.
wanted our names on the deed, and on
Mhm.
the mortgage.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really felt bad, and he didn't make
Yeah.
me feel bad. It was just me and my thoughts
Yeah.
of I'm the lowest credit score between the two, so
Mm.
I felt like, oh, I might drag us down and we might not be able to, go for our house
Right.
goals. And that
Yeah.
just really didn't sit well with me. So I
Yeah.
say, you know what, I'm eventually, that was the sparking point, I would say, that I
Yeah.
decided, you know what, I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I we got the house and
Got
we
you.
started looking at
Okay.
our income and debt ratio again. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I got this vehicle. It's too
Yeah.
high of a debt on top
Yeah.
of having a mortgage. We got to get rid of it. And we
Mm.
looked at our other options of,
Yeah.
hey, refinancing, putting it on
Yeah.
Turo. All those things
Mhm.
didn't work out for us. And I said, you know
Yeah.
what? Let me call a great friend of mine
There you
who's
go.
been a mentor in the credit game for so long. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to know, like, what were the steps if I do a repossession? And that was
Right.
where I was with my credit. So even though, but prior to that, I was looking to improve my credit, I knew doing that repossession, I'm going to have to rebuild my credit. And that's where
Right.
I said, you know what, enough is enough. I've avoided the credit game for so long, just
Right.
going for cash and doing stuff, but still different aspects of my life have always been affected by credit. I said, might as well go ahead and go all in and make sure I know what I'm doing when it comes to credit.
That's right. That's right. As a matter of fact, I want to talk to you all about this. Now, some of you all may be watching this and you're probably thinking to yourself, you know what? I am in a similar situation where I'm not sure if I can afford to keep this car, if it makes sense for me to do a voluntary repossession. And a lot of people don't know this, but again, it's easier to do a voluntary repossession than it is to do an involuntary repossession. Sometimes you can save some fees just by arranging it. Okay. But listen, having a repossession is not the end of the world. And watch this. Rachel's going to tell you more in a little bit. Okay. So now, before you decided to, go forward with the repossession, okay, do you
Mhm.
have any idea of how you felt about your credit or like your credit score before you got a game plan or strategy?
Yeah, so my credit score, it was okay.
Okay.
I would not say it was good or great.
Yeah.
It was just
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And for me, having just average credit, that's not a part of my
Yeah.
vision for myself. Building a family, I don't want that for them either. So I say, I have to be the example and
Hmm.
learn this the right way and get around those who know what they're talking about. Because to
Yeah.
be honest, I've been around other credit guru people who call themselves credit gurus or
Yeah.
fix your credit in, one day or whatever they slogans they have. But it was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go back to where I started. And that was working with you, because that's where I got the most
Yeah.
results. So for me, I had already ventured off to see other people, seeing if they could help me in a sense, but it wasn't the same when it came
Yeah.
to once I gravitated back to what you're doing and the community that you're building. So that was
Yeah.
the
Mm.
biggest push for me to say I'm in the right place to be able to learn about, not just learn about credit and the basics, but build
Yeah.
and learn the different ins and outs of not just credit cards, but learning how to leverage credit.
That's right. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. Did you ever feel like you never recover from either your credit situation or the repossession in that sense? And then also, what kept you going?
Yes, I did feel that way before I even started the repossession.
Yeah.
Prior talking, to you, it was in my mind, I was like, oh, I've never done a repossession. So I don't even know what
Yeah.
that means. I've seen people have it done, but I'm like,
Yeah.
a voluntary one, it was different. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's why I weighed out all the other options, of course. But once I saw that, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I did think it was the end of the world. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this probably gonna shoot me all the way back down to I don't know what, and don't know where I'm gonna start, and nobody's
Yeah.
gonna let me borrow anything, get any credit card stuff
Yeah.
like that." So I really thought that once this hits, oh boy,
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen and how it's going to
Yeah.
affect me long term. So yes.
Yeah. And you know what? And let me tell everybody that's watching this, it's perfectly human to feel that way because it is a big deal, right? And we do know that it's going to affect the credit report negatively. However, when you have a strategy, or essentially we started working on stuff well before that. We start preparing, right before that. And then now let me ask you this. How did you feel when you first received like your strategy, your game plan? Were you hopeful? Were you nervous, overwhelmed? What were you thinking?
Little nervous. I definitely said, well, I'll try these things, the strategy. All I can do is do it or not do it. And I said,
Yeah.
and right now not doing is not going to help me. So I
Yeah.
decided to, yeah, definitely move forward with the tips that you provided, just even in the community, and
Yeah.
say, let's give it a try before the repossession hit my credit. So I'm glad I
Yeah.
took those steps prior to that because I know sometimes it could take 30 to 60 days before with the voluntary repossession of that hitting my credit. And lo and behold, that's how about 30 to 45 days it took
Mm.
before it hit my credit. But I had done some things before that
Yeah.
that I didn't even think I was going to get approved for, or let
Mm.
alone get increases. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow. And just learning those things based off of what I didn't know, that's what
Yeah.
helped me to be able to stay ahead of it.
Yeah, I love it. So here now let's talk let's give some people some game, okay? Now we don't have to go name of credit card companies if you don't want to. You can go
Okay.
limits if you want to. But like what are some things that you were able to do right before the repossession or really just in the last let's say 60 days? What are some things that you were able to do, to kind of reduce the damage that the repossession was going to cause and what are some things that you got approved for along the way?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was able to do, I did join a 90-day credit mastery boot camp. And with that, I was able to gain other people's knowledge who maybe been
Yeah.
doing it longer than me. So
Yeah.
that was a big plus right there. In
Mm.
itself, if I didn't get anything else, that was great because it's ongoing
That's
information and
right.
I'm educating myself. And by heart, me as a person, I've always been a person that wants to be educated,
Yeah.
beyond school,
Yeah.
formal education, that is. And so when I got a part of that community, that was the first thing. The second thing was being able to have access to not just people in the community for questions, but even accessing you through that community, with that boot camp. The
Yeah.
mastery boot camp, the first session is where I learned, Rachel, you can apply and get
That's right.
approved for I believe it's unsecured credit
Mhm.
card. And I
Yep.
said, oh boy. And I was like, I've only ever had really one credit card that I
Yep.
utilized and maxed out. And that was back
Yeah.
when I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go for it. And went through the credit union that I'm a part of because I
Yeah.
already have that relationship. So I learned that
Yeah.
having relationships with banks or credit unions is helpful. So
That's
that
right.
was the other big key that for me when I approved and they said, oh, it's a hard inquiry. I'm like, oh, well, I have nothing to lose at this point. So the
That's
next
right.
morning they approved it. And that was my biggest limit that I've
Wow.
ever seen. And it was for $20,000. So
$20,000. Hold on,
I
hold on.
was like,
Let's
wow.
let's take a step back. Now we ain't pocket watching or nothing like that, but I want people to understand the context of this. You have
Hmm.
someone that is literally you had already told the bank that it's time to let's go ahead. Essentially, you've already made the arrangement for the repossession. Okay.
Hmm.
And now most people would think, oh my God, I gotta figure my life out, with this whole entire process. But you didn't feel that way because you had that strategy. You had that game plan. You at least had the steps to take. And not only that, but you said, you know what? Let me try to maximize all of this right before that repossession hits. And here you are going from one credit card to two credit cards. And not only that, but that for a $20,000 limit for someone. And by the way, guys, for those who don't know, to have a repossession, that means that there could have been, potential late payments in the past or some score movement in the past. But to get approved for that, that is major. What else were you able to accomplish along the way or learn along the way?
Yes. Also, what I was able to learn more so along the way is having your the credit limits not just increased,
That's right.
but learning to know that it affects your credit score
Yeah.
when you are not. under 10% utilization.
Yeah.
So I've always heard the 30%. And I was like, wait a minute, what were we talking about 10? Where that
Right.
come from? But being a part of the community, staying up to date on the knowledge you put out there, others people put out there, and then going into
Yeah.
those mastery sessions that we have, once or twice out the month,
Yeah.
that helped me to see, okay, no, it's not about the 30% anymore. You move it to a different
Mhm.
bracket. Keep
Yep.
it below the 10% or less with the credit card. So that was another thing that I learned. And then
Nice.
ultimately learning too, where you put it out there, and not just in your reels and not just in the mastery boot camp, but you put it out there to the public when you do your YouTube channel, learning that, hey, you can apply for an increase with
Yep.
your credit cards, once a month, or you could do it every 2 to 3 months. So I said, oh,
That's right.
really? Never
Mhm.
had asked for an increase. I thought it was just I fill out some information that they asked me for from the current credit card I had, and then nothing happened. And that was
Yeah.
prior to this community and starting to work on it. But I said, wait, let me find out. Do I need to call? And you said, yeah, call them. So when I
Mhm.
called, I said, okay, well, I would like to get an increase. They asked me like 3 questions, and that was it. And
Yeah.
they said, okay, you've been approved. We've increased it. And my limit with the one credit card has always been 800. And that was when I
Yeah.
first got it. It came in the mail, and I just started using it back in
Mm.
2016.
Mm.
So from 2016 till now, so that's what, about
Yeah,
9
9 years.
years
Yep.
of having it. And I never asked for an increase. I was like, they probably not going to let me increase this. I don't max it out, but I did pay off more of the debt before I asked for
Yeah.
the increase. And
Smart.
once they went through and approved, they increased from 800 to 2,300. So I was like,
Wow.
what? You have not because you ask not.
That's
So
right. That's right. Listen, that is huge. And listen, guys, I want to take a moment here to explain really quick what Rachel was talking about as far as utilization. Okay. So, a lot of people, even if you Google credit utilization or credit card utilization, you're going to always see things like, keep your utilization around 30%. And listen, you don't want to do that. You want to stay around 7 to 10% utilization on your credit cards. Okay. Not only is that going to help your credit score, but that's going to help your relationship with that financial institution, just in case you decide, hey, I want to get a higher limit or credit limit increase in general. I also want to mention a disclaimer. Everyone's results is going to be obviously a little bit different. Everyone's credit report is different. Their credit profile is different. Okay. But keep in mind, you always have to stay positive. You never know what's going to happen. And like Rachel says, you have not because you ask not. Okay. So now I do want to say something too, Rachel. Did anything surprise you about how credit really works versus what you thought it was like before?
oh yes, it did. I'm used to, okay, if you mess up, then that's it. There's no more. Yes, I believe in second chances, but with credit, I did
Mm,
not believe that.
yeah,
To now, it was, hey, you mess up, but rebuild and be consistent. I
yeah,
mean, that's life. So I
yeah.
learned the credit game is really how to master life, even with the mess ups, the hiccups, when life is going to be lifing or life is happening, and
Mhm,
you just keep moving forward. So, like you said,
yeah,
going back to knowing what you know, but then
yeah.
applying what you know is what's going to determine the difference in how someone leverages credit versus credit leveraging them.
That's right. Man, you couldn't have said it any better than that. That's for sure. And then now, of course, I know it was a lot going on throughout this entire process.
Mhm.
And were you able, well, let me ask you this. How long did it take before you started to see results, like your score improving? Or better yet, like was that an aha moment for you?
So I would say, yeah, it was a mixture of both. A aha
Yeah.
moment because I was not really paying attention to
Yeah.
certain, bureaus that I have that I use
Hmm.
for tracking all three of my credit scores.
Yeah.
And then I saw, oh, it's been increases for 30 days. And that was right when I joined the community.
Yeah.
So that happened. Of course, yes, being consistent with paying things on time, making sure I have it set to auto pay, not manually doing it. So that's another tip, because if you forget and
Yeah.
then it's past that, well, let's say grace period when it comes to credit, just keep stuff on auto pay that you know you're going to pay for anyway.
Hmm.
So I learned that as well, to set that up even with the new credit cards. when I, do get them, and then
Yeah.
knowing, oh, it can increase. Yeah, we may see it once a month because it's updating it once a month, but
Yeah.
then it tracks it in those particular programs or subscriptions that you have. Hey, you went up 2 points. Hey, you went up 10 points. And I'm like, really, what I do?
Yeah.
So just seeing that and knowing that, that made a difference for me. Being able to see that
Yeah.
along the way, is what makes a difference as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I do have another question as well too. And this kind of ties back into the biggest thing that you probably were worried about the most, and that was that repossession. Now, there was a balance that was due.
Hmm.
And essentially, we all know how repossessions work. For those who don't know, the short version is if you have a repossession, the bank is going to take the vehicle, they're going to sell it at the auction, and then you're going to end up owing whatever the difference is, if there is a difference. Okay. But Rachel was able to have a different end result. Okay. And Rachel, how much money do you think you were able to save? From the original balance to what they told you you would owe based on the strategy that we gave you.
So what I was able to save, long story short, was $10,000.
Mm,
So I was excited about that. We all jumping in the house like, oh my gosh, because I did not think I was going to save that much. We
mm,
already had in mind, okay, let's settle for an
yeah.
amount as a grand gesture or a great gesture with them for at
Yeah.
least 3 grand. And with the 3 grand, I said, okay, let's settle for that amount.
Yeah.
And once we did,
Mm,
they came back. I called in because I was like, they haven't called me. That's weird. So I called, and then
mm-hmm.
they went over the options because I had got an email, of course, and a mailed letter from the
Yeah.
company, and they said, hey, we can settle for this amount.
Yep.
And I was like, and it was below what we were willing to settle for. So I said, wait a
Mm,
minute. I said, well, let me go talk to. I told them, look, I'm gonna call back today because they said that it's computer generated, so
yeah.
we'll can't quote you the same one. Hopefully we can when you call
Yeah.
back in. I know I mentioned it to you and my
Mm,
fiance. You was like, call them back right away. So I did that, and that, yes, that saved me $10,000. It
look at
allowed me
that.
to set up a payment,
Yeah.
for being able to pay that settlement off. So I didn't have to do it in one lump sum unless I had it, of course.
Yep.
But I did a payment plan and be able to pay it off in less than a year is the goal.
Mm,
So
wow.
with that being said, if I would have kept what I have, the debt would have stretched me, would have
Yep.
stressed me.
Yep.
And on
Yep.
top of that, a lot of that money, because I was paying almost $730 a month.
Yeah.
So I was
Mm,
already doing that prior to the repossession for
yeah.
3 years. So I'm
Yeah.
probably paying for two other people cars, right? At
It's,
that
it's
point,
for real.
or three. So it
Yeah.
was an SUV. So let me stop saying car, but
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
definitely it was a 2021. And on top of that, I was looking at breaking down, okay, if you're not paying this, how much more could you put to other things, like paying your debt off quicker that you
Yeah.
do have from student loans, or paying off
Hmm.
the credit card debt that you didn't know what you were doing, even though you got it, pay that off quicker. So that way you
Hmm.
can have a lower utilization. So it's so many things it could have affected
Yeah.
had I stayed with keeping the
Hmm.
SUV. And I said, you know what, that is outweighing it.
Yeah.
It was nervous when they came, because when they called me to come get it, it was off. It was just out of the blue. Even though I
Yeah.
had set it up, and I was like, I've been waiting. They ain't called me. They ain't called me. So
Right.
when they came to get it, it was nervous with that.
Yeah.
I was just, you get attached to things that maybe aren't good for you.
You do. Right.
Because it serves a purpose, but it was past the
Yeah.
season of what it was serving me for. So
Right.
I would have been still paying that off had I not taken the settlement, probably for the next, with this car note, for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's way more. It's more to me to have my freedom and my peace of mind of knowing, yes, this is the route I'm going, but yes, I could rebuild from this as well.
Mm. Listen, let me tell you guys something. Rachel is more than just a testimony to other people. You're talking about being in a situation where you're not sure what's the best options, finding out all of your options, getting answers to your questions. And let's just do like a quick recap. You're talking about getting a second credit card, $20,000 limit. Mind you guys, this was when the repossession was scheduled. Okay. So you got that. Then you have, of course, her one of her credit cards went from an $800 limit to a $2,300 limit in this is the same week, or the same within at least the same month. Okay, within the
Mhm.
same 30-day time span. Then you have her saving over $10,000 just from making a phone call and having to call back and saying certain things to position herself to save that amount of money. Okay. Now, Rachel, what advice would you give someone who's watching this video right now who feels stuck like you once did? What advice would you give them?
My advice is get in the right rooms with the right people
Mm,
to help you where you're trying to go. You can't do this by yourself.
yeah.
Even if you maybe have gone down this road already,
Yeah.
maybe it's a different strategy you need. And without others who are in that niche for credit
Yeah.
that can help you, it's going to be a struggle, to be honest, to just do it by yourself. It can catapult you by being in the right rooms with the right people in the right communities. It can catapult you a lot quicker than you trying
Yeah.
to do it by yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's talk about the future. Let's go ahead and start preparing for some things. What are some questions that you have for me, or what are some things that you want to start preparing for? Is it another property? Is it another house? What are some things that you're now looking towards?
Yeah, so more what I'm looking towards, so not another house yet.
Okay. Okay.
But of course, we do plan on renting
Yeah.
the basement. So that's one of the future things. And just
Mm,
being able to, I would say for us, leverage credit in a different way.
yeah.
So that way, if need be, hey,
Yeah.
I can have the new car that
Yeah.
I'm looking to have down the road, that's, whether it's used or not, having that new car where it's not a huge debt. So that's the one I know biggest goal for me. Overall, just being able to leverage credit
Yeah.
altogether. So that way
Yeah.
I can use the credit cards for different purposes, whether that's for traveling, dining out, just learning how to leverage it in that way.
That's right.
Because I've never done that before, where you have credit card for different
Hmm.
purposes
That's
and
right.
then different strategies. And
Yeah.
then not only that, but maximizing the benefits that the credit cards have with when it comes to the point system, cash back, of course. So being able to ultimately have access to all of that, those different accesses, private accesses that you have because you are a card holder.
That's right. Absolutely. And listen, I want to take a moment to explain to you all what Rachel has just learned being a part of our 850 Club elite community. Okay. We have a credit community in which we not only help you accomplish your credit goals, but we also interview people, and people that are part of the elite, they get a chance to watch that interview early. But then also, too, most of our guests stick around after the interview to answer any questions. And one of the, I guess, one of the interviewees, well, the people that we've interviewed in the past, it really got Rachel's attention about how they could start traveling, with credit cards. Of course, you guys can watch that on the YouTube channel or join the 850 Club Elite to learn more. But it's so amazing to see that she loves that information now. All right. So
What
now,
are some, I guess, another major thing that I can be doing to help increase now back the credit score, since it has, of course, dropped?
yeah. So anytime that your credit score has dropped, the first thing that you want to do, you want to look to see how many accounts you have open. Okay. Now, knowing what I know about your profile, adding on another account wouldn't hurt you at all. Maybe 1 to 2 accounts. I always prefer credit cards over everything just because they last longer. With credit, a lot of times people forget average age of accounts. It makes up about 15% of your overall credit like scoring algorithm. That's where the algorithm, like the percentage of that plays a role. So a lot of people forget that. So when you get something like, a lot of credit builders, and there's nothing wrong with credit builders, by the way. There's a lot of times where I recommend certain credit builders for people's credit profiles. However, for you, I would most definitely consider continuing to go with, of course, those credit cards. Again, if you say, you know what, I'm kind of good where I'm at, that's fine too. You can go credit builders, but keep in mind those have expiration dates. So it will help you improve your credit score, for the next 12 months or 24 months, something like that, and there's so many credit builders that are out there, from Credit Strong to Self to the list goes on, Kickoff, Kobo, the list goes on. So,
Mhm.
however, for you, I would recommend potentially kind of going with credit cards, you're already having that good stride, already, and you can wait for your credit score to continue to improve as well too. Now, if you're under 600, I don't know, I know it made your score drop a little bit. I don't know exactly where it's at. You don't have to go
It's
into it.
right
Yeah,
below 600.
got it.
So it's
Okay,
like maybe 10 points shy of hitting the 600, 10 to
got it.
15 points, depending on the credit bureau that I'm
Got it.
looking
Okay.
at, of course. But yeah, that's what I was wondering because I know some credit card companies, when you look to for the
Yeah.
ones that, well, do you have a place that I should go for pre-approvals to see first? Because I know any most of the credit cards, once you apply, there's another hard inquiry. Most, I guess you could say, credit cards.
Yeah, now that I know it's under 6, we're gonna go with Credit Builder, and not to
Okay.
say that you couldn't get approved. I know you could more than likely get approved for a Capital One Platinum. However, I would like to avoid the inquiry just because there's a chance we might get denied, So,
Right.
I would rather us go with the Credit Builder. I'll send it over to you which one I think you should go with.
Okay.
And what that Credit Builder is gonna do, you'll be able I'm gonna send you 2 of them. One is gonna be for 12 months, another one's gonna be for 24 months. You can go with one or you can go with both of them. And even if you decided, hey, I don't even want to go with either of these and just wait and just let your on time payments get you there, you could do that as well
Mhm.
too. But to get there faster, another account wouldn't hurt you at all. Okay. And
Uh,
so you get those credit builders, and we have credit builders recommendations that I have, one that's $5 a month, one that's $10 a month, and those will be perfect for you. Okay. So I'll send
okay.
it over to you right now. And then that way, you do that, and then your scores, obviously your score is going to bounce back. I would say in about 60 days or so. You'll most definitely be back in the mid sixes. I would say in about 90 days, maybe a little bit faster
Okay.
because of your other accounts that you have. Just make sure that
Mhm.
that you are keeping those balances obviously low. You don't have to go to 10% like on that $20,000 credit card. You do not have to go 10%. You could be well under that. Like, I tell people all the time, if you have credit cards, just having something $50 to $100 and putting it on auto pay, or just finding bills that you have. We all got bills, right? So whether
Mhm.
it's Apple Music, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, a gym membership, a phone bill, you put that on a credit card, put it on auto pay, you get those 2 credit builders, you will be just fine for sure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was gonna ask that with the credit builders, the ones that you're gonna send, do they have
Mhm.
where I know we talked about in the community before, which I
Yeah.
haven't researched yet, but the ones that report from when you're reporting like your utilities, like it tracks it, I guess, and that helps it, or that might be a credit boost, is what I'm thinking of.
No, 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 no. So it's a honestly, it's the same thing. So a credit
Oh,
boost,
okay.
yeah, a credit boost is anything that's going to help you improve your credit score. And I
Mhm.
think I know what you're referring to. You're referring to Experian Boost. And so with Experian Boost, that only affects the Experian credit report. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Now I will say this though, there is a new account that just came out with your credit union that I will send you that information as well too. And
Okay.
that is, yeah, what they're doing now, they're essentially adding your utility bills directly to your credit report. Okay.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, and so it's absolutely amazing. So if anybody has Navy Federal, they need to strongly consider
I
getting
thought I
Bloom
saw that
Plus.
post.
Yeah, so and so everyone's situation is going to be obviously different, but that is an alternative, that's there as well too. Then you have
Okay.
Grow Credit. So Grow Credit, they're making some changes in how their structure works. So they're not taking any new applications for now, but once they start taking applications again, that's going to be the ideal situation, is going to be Grow Credit. Okay. And
Okay.
so that's what I would strongly recommend for sure.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Well, I appreciate it. That's all my
absolutely.
questions I have for now, as far as next steps to start focusing on.
There you go. And of course, you're a member of the 850 Club Elite. So any questions you have and things of that sort, there's always
Mhm.
guests that we have too that fill in certain blanks that go deeper into specifics, depending on what the topic is and things of that sort. But Rachel,
Mhm.
listen, I know a lot of people have benefited heavily from this interview and have learned. So listen, if you all learned something or gotten some takeaways from this interview, let us know in the comments section below. And if you want to see more interviews like this, let us know inside the comment section below. But thank you so much, Rachel, for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.